Happy Tuesday,
Hey,
Hacksters! It is Hackster Cafe Day again, and we have this amazing guest, Dawn Ho, who's a person that I know personally, and I think she's really cool. Not only that, but she's a co-founder of Seam IoT. Could you tell us a little bit about what Seam is and who you are and what you do?
totally. Seam is building a platform for smart devices. We help companies connect their software applications to smart locks, thermostats, sensors, you name it. Yeah, basically, we do tons of software integrations with tons of different brands and tons of different types of devices. And let's say you're a hotel company and you're trying to connect with a thermostat, a smart lock, all the sensors, and you can just connect to us, and we kind of manage all the complicated backend, authorizations and event streaming that you might not want to deal with. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's super cool. What's one of your favorite platforms that you have on here?
Let's see. I'm partial to smart locks. I
Mm.
actually used to work with a bunch of different door locks at another hotel company. So whenever I see a really easy to use, kind of like modern API enabled access system, I get really excited. Um, One example is yeah, like so. This is actually the last company I worked at, Sonder, and they had this amazing mobile app where they would send you a key code and then you could just punch in the code on the door, get into your unit. You don't have to check in or anything. It's just really easy. I
Ooh.
love smart locks. Yeah.
Cool.
But
And you do other genres as well, right?
yeah. So
Devices.
yeah, we do a lot of thermostats. Let's see, like we're working on elevator access.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, just like what else? Different sensors, noise sensors. I know there's like all of the environmental sensors like the Netatmo or um, Purple Air. They do temperature, air pressure, all of those things. We do everything. Like basically, if someone asks us like, hey, like we want to talk to this device, we can take a look into it and figure out an integration and stream it all under our platform.
Cool. And do
Yeah.
companies usually approach you, or do you usually approach them, or?
A little bit of both.
Mm.
We're pretty lucky right now. Some of our customers are, say, like a hospitality software company, so they provide like a booking platform to tons of different Airbnb hosts or tons of different hotel operators, and then we kind of like
Mm.
do the IoT integration piece of it. So they help us sell our product to their customers, saying like, hey, if you uh, integrate your smart devices to the platform, we can then hand out key codes to people. We can turn off your thermostat when people leave the unit. Really offer like a really cool solution to their customers.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
you're not, you do a lot of cool stuff for business, but you're also not all business. You do some hardware stuff on your own as well. So like this thing, for example, what is this thing going on?
Yeah, this is the image is a little bit grainy, but it's my Burning Man bike in 2019. I like building tall light fixtures on a Burning Man bike because at night when you park the bike and like there's like hundreds of bikes next to
Right.
your bike, it's really hard to see, where you had left your bicycle. So if you have a tall brightly lit object that is easy to identify, sometimes helps you find things. But that is a kind of like a cool lantern with LEDs connected
It's
to it
very
that I really like.
anglerfishy.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of the idea. It's very minimal anglerfish.
Makes sense. What did you use to build this? Like what platform is inside of there? And are those NeoPixels or?
Oh, it's just actually, I was using my friend's LED controller.
Ah,
He uh, we engineered an Arduino, and he has this sort of like um, yeah, I forget what it is. It's just connected to normal RGB LED strip, and then you plug it in. There's a bunch of different lighting patterns that you can sort of like
hmm.
scroll through, and it's incredible. His name's Shlomo Zippel, and
Oh
he was
yeah.
actually planning, yeah, he was actually planning on connecting it to a mobile app, and then you can sort of like create your own lighting patterns and flash it to the controller. But I think he got distracted with two other startups, so that wasn't happening.
Classic
Yeah,
San Francisco.
totally.
Someone says, "Why don't you just use a flashlight to identify your bike or a sound sensor?"
I did that. I actually used to have a disco ball on my bike, and then I did have a flashlight shining on the disco ball. So this is kind of an upgrade from that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
but
this is, like, very distinctive in ways that, like, a flashlight wouldn't be.
sure. Yeah, it's fun. I like iterating on the orb, and of course it's Burning Man. So this orb lasted maybe 2 days, and I pushed over my bike one day and it smashed, and I was like, ah, well, that's too bad.
So it goes. You kinda gotta
Yeah,
accept that.
yeah,
You
it's
got it
fine.
there. So what's
Mhm.
this project you did?
Oh my gosh, this was really fun. I don't know if people have heard of the mobile app game Space Team. It's
Yes.
where you yeah, it's where you get together a group of your friends and you're all trying to drive this spaceship together, and the computer's like firing off random commands to you, and you have to yell at each other to coordinate. We made a physical version of this game. Each The cool thing about this project was that each artist can design their own uh, personalized panel, like space command panel,
Ah.
and then we plug it into the system. The computer syncs up all the commands, and then you kind of have this like weird open source platform for Space Team. The panel that I designed is on the very left,
Ooh,
and
pull that up.
it's a doll theme panel. Uh, Very confusing, I know, but the idea is like, how do you turn a doll into a game control, right? So
Ah.
yeah, there were commands like shake the bird, or rat bites the cat's tail, or inject hemoglobin into the octopus's mouth. I don't know. It was
Whoa,
really kind of
wait.
crazy. Yeah.
So how do you actually turn those into physical interactions? So, like, did you have sensors in the mouse and the thing it was biting or whatever, and the
Yeah, there's like a wire to each location, like the mouth or the tentacle. And
Ah!
I was using the keypad circuit where, um, you know how like with a payphone keypad, you have like wires coming in vertical and then wires coming out from the
Yeah,
horizontal, and then based on, you can sort of like ping each line and then see like where you read the signal from the other side to see which
right.
number was being pressed. So that was the mechanism I was using to see what was touching what.
Ah, super cool. The and the thing about putting hemoglobin into, like, the octopus, that's so I love it, it's so weird.
It's so weird. Yeah.
So when you're bringing up a client, so you've got some pictures in here of, like, doing a setup in a hotel, for example. Um,
Yeah.
when you're bringing up a client like that, what is the process sort of from start to finish? Like, you started talking about doing it, and then what's the process you went through together?
Totally. So oftentimes, so this was actually a mini hotel, a capsule hotel in New
Ah!
York. Yeah, and they have like hundreds of people coming through the building like every day. It's kind of insane. They do like, you can book it for a couple hours for a nap, or you can book like a several night stay. And because of this really high throughput, they wanted to have smart locks for giving people access to the pods. And
Mm,
these key codes needed to expire after someone's stay had finished, right? So when we onboard a customer, we usually talk to them about like, hey, like, what is this really specific thing that you're trying to achieve? And we
mm,
try to match that problem with a IoT solution, right? So in this case, we're like, hey, we know the Yale lock, pretty reliable, pretty easy to use. Um, we have so these were like Z-Wave uh, Yale locks, and we have a hub that has a couple of radios that we use to connect to these smart locks, which we then can bring online using our software.
and
So
oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, yeah, no. So I like for this install, since it was one of our earlier ones, we just flew me and my co-founder out. And we physically help them install the hubs. This is me on top of a ladder,
Love
just
it.
drilling into their ceiling. But it's fun.
Cool, and what about, like, after the install? What kind of continuing do you have to do continuing maintenance on it? Like, what kind of arrangement do you have with them?
Yeah. So the main maintenance that we do is we push software updates to this hub to help support more and more features. Uh, Sometimes, I mean, this was actually a pretty complicated thing to build. We had some bugs here and there where for a while when you push the software update, we lost our SSH key access to this hub, and it
No!
was a little, and it was just like, oh, whoops, like, yep, that would happen. So we've definitely tightened down the process a little bit more. But in general, we haven't had to fly back out there to do any maintenance. We managed to get back access to the hub just by like pressing the reset button and doing some fancy stuff. But yeah, thankfully, pretty low maintenance. Just like we're trying to, I don't know, like support better event streaming or like better, uh, you know, fix some bugs in the data syncing.
Hmm,
But yeah, so far, just a lot of software work.
hmm,
And in terms of the integration, we actually work with another provider who provides the snapping hotel with a booking platform. So we're not actually the main people who are working with this hotel. Like there's this company, Stay Flexi. They have this platform, and we're just kind of like the IoT piece of that solution.
Stay
Yeah,
flexy?
Stay Flexi. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah,
tell us
we're like it's kind of a fun space. We're an infrastructure platform that can sort of like integrate with a lot of different types of software providers to make them IoT enabled.
cool.
Mhm.
So tell us about this hub that you've made. We've got some pictures of that as well.
Oh my
Really
god.
interesting. This is not the final one.
No, go for it.
You
Yeah,
said this
this is
right
like a
away, but yeah.
yeah. I thought it was fun. This is like a really early version of this hub where
Uh-huh,
we just threw a BeagleBone and a radio into a box and we shipped it to like a friend
uh-huh,
and connected it to their thermostat and door lock. But this is a XB Zigbee radio and a BeagleBone that we yeah, just had some like sort of really basic Linux and Python script running on there
uh-huh.
just to power it. But we've actually since moved kind of farther and farther away from actually making these things because we found like an off-the-shelf hub for a while from Taiwan where all of these features were supported. And we're like, hey, like I think manufacturing is really fun, but like if we want to move fast, sometimes just finding solutions that are off the shelf and modifying the software can really help get you faster. For the napping hotel, we actually installed this Taiwanese uh, hub
Hmm.
instead. Um, so yeah, it's fun, kind of sort of figuring out like what is the sort of like best and most efficient approach to solving a problem.
That's
And
really
sometimes,
interesting.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're the first person I've ever heard say that manufacturing is fun. I love that.
yeah.
Tell us, what do you like about manufacturing? Was that
Oh
a joke or
well,
was that, like, for real?
a little bit of both. I think
Uh-huh.
it was it was actually, I mean, I think the fun piece for me is figuring out all the small details that you have to sort out uh, to have a successful manufacturing process. Like, even though we weren't manufacturing these hubs ourselves, there were so many little details you had to figure out. Stuff like, um, preparing the software that you wanted to the software flashing process that you wanted to run in the factory. It's yeah, preparing all the stickers and labels
Mm.
that you and the manual that you want to have accompany this hub.
Oh, right.
Stuff like certifications, FCC, and then lastly, like how do you even ship this thing from Taiwan to America? Like there's like you need to learn how to coordinate with like different shipping coordinators. You need to build a relationship with them. It was just like, wow, like I had no idea that there was so much to making things. And we actually ended up working with like a manufacturing consultant that
Mm.
helped sort of guide a lot of our negotiations and track the processes around this whole thing. And with COVID, there was also the
Ugh.
added complexity of component shortages, right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was really fun too. That was yeah.
uh, so what kinds of certifications did you have to have for this device? And this is like a second
Just
version that you sort of shared with me.
yeah, I think the main version, it's like the better photo is probably on the website. It's just this beautiful little white box. Looks
Oh
like an
yeah.
AirPod Express, but it's mostly around. I think this was like a pre-made product that they had, so there's like maybe like 5 different radios on there. So definitely certification to make sure that all those radios didn't interfere with each other.
Right.
That our manufacturer managed, took care of, but also they wanted to look at our instruction manuals just to make sure we have the requisite, sort of like disclaimers and FCC related language that was displayed there. But yeah, I think like from our end, we just had to worry about sort of like design of the literature that came with this hub, and just to make sure that everything was covered.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Doing your own manual must be really interesting.
Yeah. But we're actually moving more towards like a software to software integration. Like we do see that more and more devices are coming online, and
Uh-huh.
like, hey, maybe you don't even need a hub to connect to things. Like everybody has, a Wi-Fi enabled solution. There's like a Wi-Fi lock, Wi-Fi thermostat. Like you don't even need a hub sometimes. You can just
Hmm.
connect directly to the software. So that is kind of like the latest uh, solution that we're working on as well. It's just to do software integrations with different devices and offer that as a solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. This
Yeah.
is so cool. Um,
Mhm.
let's jump in. We've got this special segment that we're gonna do. It's the SparkFun Rapid Round, and this is just we're about halfway through the interview, so these are just gonna be really fast, short questions and answers. And if there's something really meaty and interesting, we can dig into it later. I'm going to move over so that you can see my timer, and I'm gonna hit this
You
in a
have quite the
second.
background.
You what?
You have quite the interesting background too.
Oh
So
yeah, I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
get some
yeah.
better lighting. But
Mhm.
okay, are you ready? All right, I'm gonna hit this big red button. Boom. Okay, so have you ever started a fire in your workshop?
Yes, this was at a hackathon that I was
Yeah,
running, and
quick. We'll
someone
get we'll
had
get we'll get to it
yes,
later. Sorry.
yes,
We've only got
mhm,
60 seconds. Okay, so you climb. Do you like bouldering or top roping better?
top rope,
Okay.
top rope.
Have you ever turned down investment?
Yes,
Ooh. Have you ever crowdfunded a project or company?
no, no,
Coffee, tea, or other?
both.
Ooh. Cool. What's your favorite?
Actually, have both.
Nice. What's your favorite wireless or IoT communication protocol? Like
Hmm.
you had a Zigbee in there, but I don't know if that's your fave.
Yeah, BLE is pretty good.
Hmm. So, next category of device to jump on. You've got smart
I
locks,
really want to
thermostats.
do. I really want to do EV chargers, but we'll see.
Hmm. Next team member you would hire.
Oh, business development or software developer.
Cool. Awesome. All right. I'm so sorry for cutting you off there, but thanks. That was awesome.
Oh,
Okay,
mhm,
cool. We've got lots of interesting stuff to talk about now.
mhm.
Ooh. Not that we didn't already, but okay. I would love to hear that fire in your workshop story if you're down to tell it
Totally. This is actually not in my house, but
now.
I used to run a hackathon with some friends called Science Hack Day, and I was in
Yeah.
charge of the hardware shop. Yeah, Alex, you gave a few nice speeches there, but someone was trying to recycle PLA filament, and they were melting it in a toaster oven,
Oh
and that
no.
lit on fire. And that was the first time I'd ever used a fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So that was really fun.
That's hilarious. I think the last time I went to a science hack day, I was trying to recycle PLA filament and I was trying to like jam it down a hot glue gun or whatever, like to try and
Right.
extrude it since it was like it didn't work very well. I don't recommend that.
Oh,
It worked okay, but not well. So tell us a little bit more about Science Hack Day.
yeah. I think Ariel ran this hackathon for 10 years, and
Yeah.
the mission there was just to make science accessible. Like kids can come, adults come, anybody's welcome. It's a free hackathon. You show up and you come together, find a team, and you work on a random project. Doesn't have, you don't have to finish it. You can just, like learn about microscopy, do something there. You can join another project around building a satellite, or no, it's just really fun. Just anything goes really. And at the end of the 2 days, you put together a little small presentation, kind of showing the progress that you've made, and you talk about the idea that you were exploring, and that's it. Like it's just 2 days of fun scientific exploration.
It's so cool. And you've sort of staffed stocked and run the hardware area. What kinds of
Yeah.
stuff are sort of central to doing a area at a hackathon kind of thing like this?
Oh, absolutely. I actually was really lucky in that I was able to borrow a whole set of tools from this company called Plethora. They're not around anymore, but we had a electrical soldering station with some basic set of components that people can sort of like grab from and try to put together something. We had a 3D printer. I had a Shaper Origin wood router that people could use as
Mm.
well. And then there's some like really basic hand tools like power drills, vices, and hammers and screwdrivers and knickknack. I also had a sewing machine that I would bring. I don't know. It's just like you kind of want to like cover a little bit of all the categories just to you know hope for the best. But I
Totally.
think that yeah, I think the one area that I always wish I brought more things around is like different like power chargers, or like uh, electrical components. Like people always ask for like, oh, do you have an Arduino? Like, oh, do you have a
Mm,
Raspberry Pi? I'm like, and I'm always short on those parts.
understandably. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
hard to stock like a whole hackathon with a bunch of, because you've got to get them from somewhere. And
yeah,
if you start giving out Arduinos, a lot of people are going to get very excited about that.
that's
Having
true.
your own
That's true.
hackathons. Absolutely. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the Shaper Origin, which you've also used in your current work at Seam. What are you doing here?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've had to build so many different fixtures for different types of IoT devices. This is just a fake door where we install like a deadbolt, door lock too. So yeah, I've iterated on this design like many times. The first version, because I had a router, was this sort of like wood, thing cut out of plywood,
Hmm.
and it comes together really nicely. It just like there's like maybe like four screws in there, but everything else just like kind of slides and fits in each other. But I've actually now got a Glowforge laser cutter, so now I can just
Mm.
like print it out much easier. Um, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I,
I
yeah,
love our Glowforge in the office. It's so good. Do you have
yeah,
the basic
yeah.
or the pro?
I got a secondhand Pro, and
Nice.
yeah, it works great. I have used the sort of like feed through feature
Yeah.
once with a friend, and it works amazingly well. I've never used such an easy to use laser cutter before,
Oh, nice.
so really spoiled here. Yeah.
That's really cool. I've never used the pass-through feature, and I was kinda wondering if it's, like, really that useful, so it sounds like it is.
Yeah, they have a camera, and it automatically figures out like how much you've moved the piece,
Ah,
and it can sort
wow.
of like, yeah, it's amazing. This
That's
was
so
a
cool.
thermostat fixture.
Mhm.
So the lights on the bottom right are, if they turn on, it means the cooling or the heating
Ah!
is activated. And then there's also a fan that simulates like whether the fan is on. It's the most fun little thing. This is like in its disassembled state, but
Uh-huh.
um, it's a very silly little project we put together to test out this thermostat.
Love it. And you've got a little balance, is this like an enclosure from an actual device? Because 'Cause it's got this little level in it, it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of times, this was an Ecobee thermostat. They have like when
Ah.
you install it on the wall, it already has this little bubble
Oh,
level.
so and then this is, like,
Right.
you taking the brain and, like, hooking it up to your fake HVAC system.
Exactly. Exactly.
Ah.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
this incredible array of debugging and testing devices on your desk, which I love this picture.
Yeah. It's such a mess. But we've got like, I don't know. We're working with like 7, 8, 9, 10 different brands here. They're all just in various different states of disassembly, and software integration, but we're constantly getting new requests for like, hey, do you support this brand? And we're like, no, not yet, but we will in 2 weeks. Who knows? Yeah. So it's a fun kind of like chaotic place to be.
Yes, chaos. You mentioned that you were working at Plethora when you were using the tools from there. Tell us about what you were up to there. You not only you worked there doing stuff for the company, but you also ran some hobby workshops and things, maker
Yeah, yeah.
workshops.
Totally, yeah. Plethora, they were like a CNC factory, like a kind of modern CNC factory where you can submit your 3D model online, and then they would go and sort of like mill the whole thing within 3 days and send it off back to you. But there I was working on a lot of this sort of like visualization, uploading software so you can sort of like see, get the
Mm.
quote, get the feedback on like what is wrong with the design, be able to iterate really quickly. But yeah, one of my favorite things about working at Plethora is that they had like a hobby shop like right in their office that people were welcome to use, and we had regular hackathons. We had evenings where someone might host a workshop on how to do something. And I think I remember I hosted just like a basic workshop on like, this is how you sew, and
Yeah.
we made a little backpack from that. And it was really fun.
Ah,
But yeah, but I learned how to weld there. It was
awesome.
like make welding, I think, that you could, you could do. So
That's rad. Hey, I want to learn how to make a backpack. That's awesome. Um,
happy to show you sometime.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you said that it would sort of show people what's wrong with their design, I'm curious what kind of things would most commonly stop people from being able to manufacture their thing right away?
Yeah, so stuff like if you have a really sharp corner, so basically imagine like the bit that is doing the cutting is like a drill bit. It's like circular, right? So if you have a really like just like a 90-degree
Mm.
corner, you would not be able to cut uh, that out properly. There's stuff like if there's like a undercut is what they call, like if you have like a feature like this where the tool has trouble kind of like traveling all the way around.
Mm.
That could also be an issue. So it's like funny trying to figure out the orientation on the camera. But yeah, those is kind of just like some common things. There's stuff around like tolerances as well. Perhaps like, hey, like with a certain material that you're using, you're unable to get to the level of precision that you're asking for.
Mm.
Yeah, many small things. It's really complicated. The mathematicians that were working on that problem were doing some really crazy, amazing work.
Whoa.
That is not an area that I was working on, but
Although it seems
yeah.
like you played with some of those things in here, for example. So you have like a sort of sharp 90-degree angle, but you do this thing where you put a drill
Mm.
there so that you can get that angle with your round drill bit, which is really interesting.
Yeah, totally. It's actually like a really fun little feature. I was actually when I got the Shape of Origin tool, I have you heard of the company Open Desk? It's
No.
like a open source furniture design. You can go on their website and download like a plan for like, hey, this is like an office bench, like design that you can make. So I downloaded one of their designs, and it was all like you could kind of like slap all the plywood pieces together, a couple of screws, and then you're done. So I learned a lot of these tricks of like, oh, like having this little hole so that you can have a sharp 90-degree angle, and like
Ah,
how you can sort of like get things to fit in with each other. But yeah, such a cool company. And
this is really interesting.
right. I mean, of course, they want you to buy their designs by like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I was just playing around, and they have an open source library.
Mm, good stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, in your work, you're co-founder of this company, and I assume that you do a fair amount of business stuff and also like high-level thinking. I'm curious, what tools you use to help with your day-to-day business running.
Totally. Let's see. So day-to-day business only. Well, I think the common theme during COVID is that we all kind of had to switch over to working remote with each other.
Mm.
So we have engineers that are based on the East Coast, on the West Coast, in Ukraine, and figuring out sort of the right tools for collaborating and communicating with each other has been a constant struggle. With our team, we use GitHub a lot. We like to write really detailed uh, documentation on different repositories.
Mm.
We use GitHub issues to kind of like track like, hey, like this is a problem I ran into. This is all the screenshots and documentation of like everything that went into that, and just like trying very deliberately to have like one place you can go to where you can sort of read and understand, um, yeah, like all there is to have to know about a certain project. Um, it's kind of a boring, non-hardware related thing, but
No, that's legit.
it's just been yeah. Um, yeah, and in terms of like high level planning, I don't know that like there's not really a tool around that per se, but we just talk to customers a lot. We ask them like, hey, like what is the problem you're running into? Like describe the flow of your business operations and like how, step by step you go about solving this problem currently. And then from there we can sort of like tie that to, hey, this is a solution that might be helpful to you.
That's really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this like client relationship stuff that you do. But also on the side of integrating with other people's APIs and stuff, what's
Mhm.
one of the most difficult and maybe one of the most easy ones you've worked with, and what makes it hard or easy to integrate what you do with their platforms?
Yeah. So on the easier end, it's people who've built out APIs with OAuth access. Do you know what OAuth access is?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
basically, yeah, a way for sort of like let's say you have a customer that has a door lock and you, the business, want to get access to that door lock. You can ask the customer, hey, like log into your panel and give us access to your device, but we don't have your login information. We just have this token that we can use to grab the data off of your door lock. So companies, brands that support this feature make it very easy for a third-party integrator like us to then get access to these devices without compromising somebody else's, login information. So
Mm.
that is the favorite kind of API integration that we'd like to do. It's like easy, well supported. We can just go and request information. The harder ones are ones where like they just have a mobile app, and we're like, oh, okay. So now we got to build a fake phone somewhere that clicks through your app, and and gets this information from you.
Oh
But
wow,
yeah,
that
but
sounds very special.
that's yeah, we have like a whole range of different ways that we like, oh, like sometimes we also just reach out directly to the manufacturers and we're like, hey, like you're just awesome, like we'd like to get access to it. Do you have an API we can use? And oftentimes like people are down to share
Cool.
their internal APIs with us. So
So if I'm like a
yeah.
third party manufacturer and I'm just like a small business person, like I'm selling my thing on Crowd Supply or Tindy or whatever, and
Mhm.
I like have an API with OAuth and stuff and it's all nicely set up, can I approach you and be like, hey, I would like my little smart home lighting thing that like makes a cool light art on the wall. I can control that from you and I just like approach you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think
Complete hypothetical,
certainly.
but
Yeah. I mean, if we have customers that are looking to solve that exact problem, we can often like recommend your solution to the customer, being like, hey, like we want to turn on lights, do a pattern, like use so and so's like amazing API integrated lights to do this thing, right? So I think it's like a win-win solution that we help manufacturers sell more products, and then we get to offer this really cool uh, product or solution to our customers.
Rad. And,
Yeah.
you brought up privacy as well, how, like, the
Mm.
OAuth is nice because it allows you to do it in a really structured way that doesn't compromise
Yeah.
anyone's privacy or whatever, and, of course, one
Yeah.
of your, advisors here is Bunny Huang, who is an amazing
Yeah.
person, and, honestly, just the fact that you have him advising you is a huge recommendation, I think, but also, uh yeah, big focus on privacy and personal privacy and security and things like that. So I'm curious about how that shows up in your work, and relating to IoT. Like, how does that affect your approach? as
Yeah,
a company?
definitely. I think when we were working on the hardware hub, we were pretty deliberate about like making sure that everything was designed in a way that was secure, that it was really hard to hack, and like that our protocol was properly encrypted and everything. So that is one portion of it. And on the sort of like software, and actually, just to call out somebody like I think Jordan, whose photos
Mm,
on the site that you just showed, yeah, it's just like an incredible security oriented engineer, and he's been able to help us with a lot of sort of like the hardening work that we did on the hardware hub. But on the software side, I think a lot of it's just like communicating very clearly to customers what is the data, what the data is that is being shared. And the nice thing about our solution right now is oftentimes I mean, all the time, the customer is the one who's requesting these features, so they know that, like, hey, we are connecting to your platform. We're going to be managing locking and unlocking, programming key codes, like whatever it is that we're offering on this device, and they have a easy way to see like what is being controlled on the device, and they get like real time alerts on like what is happening. So yeah, I think a lot of it's just like communicating clearly our applications, but also also being deliberate about like how we're storing sensitive credentials and making sure that we're encrypting everything properly.
really cool. And
Yeah,
what about you? So I'm pretty sure that you have a bunch of smart devices in your home from what I've read. And
yeah,
I'm curious what ones you have and that you trust to have in your house and what you think
totally.
about when choosing those.
Oh my gosh, I think for me it's more about like things that I can integrate with from my iPhone. I have an iPhone, but I use
Hmm.
HomeKit. But Lutron is like one of the most like reliable platforms I have in my house. It controls all of my light switches. I have a couple smart blinds connected to it, and things just kind of happen throughout the day. Like the blinds open when it gets
Ah,
dark, blinds close when the sun gets too bright. It's on a schedule, so it's nothing really fancy. I also have like three Roombas that clean up dog hair around my house. One mops, one vacuum, two vacuum. Yeah, a couple air sensors that tell me when things are getting too moist or too like CO2.
mm,
When I need to open my window, basically.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. There's like tons of small things. I'm just looking at my house. I'm like, what else is around there? Um, yeah, a couple air purifiers that y'all use sometimes too. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
um, yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
I I
My,
most I've
go
mostly
on.
been buying things off the shelf. I used to build more random IoT things, but we used to have our own, custom smart hubs and whatnot. But they always break. They're like, you have to restart them every couple days or so. Like we even had one of our Zigbee hubs like connected to a smart power switch, which every day at 6 a.m. it would just turn off and turn back on. and
That's
and now that
great.
I moved on to Lutron, I was like, oh well, that's better.
Smart home technology to control the smart home technology so that it doesn't break.
Yeah, yeah,
It's smart home technology all the way down.
right.
Tell us about this. This is a your first ever IoT slash soldering project. So we have to talk about
Yeah,
this.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, this is actually at one of my favorite hacker spaces in San Francisco. It's called Noise Bridge. It's
Yeah.
like donation run, like volunteer run space, and they just have a cool space with a bunch of tools and a bunch of friendly people, and you can just show up and be like, hey, like I want to learn how to solder. Can someone show me how to solder? And someone will probably be like, yeah, I have time. Let me help you with
Yeah.
this. So this was the first IoT thing I made. I used a particle photon Wi-Fi module that is just soldered to a magnetic read sensor, and I was trying to connect. I was trying to figure out when the bathrooms at my then office were available. I used to work for a company called Sauce Labs, which I think Alex, like you were there too for a little bit.
I
Um,
was. I did tech
yeah,
support there
and
for a few years.
yeah, it's really cool. And basically, when the doors were open, like usually people weren't inside the bathroom, so I acted this sensor to our Slack so that you could type on Slack being like, "Hey, are the bathrooms available?" And then it would tell you. And if they weren't available, they would you could line up in queue, and it would tell you when the door would open. Um, but yeah, it was really fun. It was my first kind of like soldering project. I'd never soldered before, and someone showed me how to do the connect the two wires to my board, and um,
That's so
yeah, it
cool.
worked. It was
Do you
really fun.
ever still use Slack to control your devices?
Yes, though actually, though mostly now it's like software things, like
Mm.
so like we've got like a Google Voice integration that gets put to Slack, and it tells us when people text us on that number. And Alex, like I should have a Slack integration to my house that I can use to turn off lights and whatnot.
I love the
Something to
idea
work
of your
on.
house having like
Yeah,
a personality that it would respond with. So you
yeah,
built that
that's a great
with
idea.
so you built that with
Mhm.
Particle. Does Seam integrate with Particle in some way?
Not yet. Maybe we should, but so
It's very
Particle
on
is
the
kind of like,
DIY.
yeah, it's a little bit different. I think like people who use Particle usually are creating their own like IoT devices. I think one of the examples I remember was like someone was a hot tub manufacturer was trying to bring their hot tubs online,
Ah!
and they integrated a Particle cellular board to their hot tub, so that sort of people, yeah, they can sort of get information back from there. We don't build our own IoT devices. We don't have as much use for Particle as some other manufacturers would. But yeah, I think it's a really cool company, and I really like what they're doing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you integrate with all these different platforms. What is sort of your dream platform that you're not yet integrated with that you would love to get on there?
Yeah, I mean, really, our mission is to be the one API to rule all the IoT devices out there. So really, like everything, like the the older and the sort of like like one random protocol that I heard about that I thought was really cool is called it's pretty crusty. It's pretty old and crusty, but it's called BACnet.
Huh?
And it's installed in a lot of like commercial office buildings where like the lights, the HVAC systems, the elevator, you name it, is connected via this like really old school Ethernet enabled
Oh, wow.
protocol. And you can down to the server room, plug in through like, is it like a VGA adapter, like something like that,
Oh
like
my
plug it
gosh.
in, and then you can kind of control, you can detect all the devices that are on network and like presumably control it, right? Like it's very old school, but wouldn't it be cool to be able to just like plug in and like control like the whole office building?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
My partner had got this magazine, not a magazine, but a book of articles by a guy called Charcha. I think it's called like Charcha's Seller. And he has all these like
right.
ancient systems for connecting up your smart home, but with all just like buttons and like nothing wireless, just absolutely. Yeah, he's got like security systems and stuff, and I think they're all just wired in. It's from like
uh,
the 80s or something. It's incredible. Oh, the old stuff. This looks really fascinating. I've never heard of BACnet. Ah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, a lot of people have it, surprisingly. I think WeWork was we were talking to somebody at WeWork, and they had a BACnet
No
integration for
way.
yeah, controlling like lights and temperature and whatnot.
That's so interesting. I think of them as such as like a modern day, like recent company, but that they would
Mhm,
have all these integrations with BACnet. Ah,
mhm.
so who inspires your hardware design? What kind of hardware do you think is really beautiful or elegant or works really well or all of the above that you just think is really cool? Like
Oh
this is
man.
very pretty.
Um,
But,
mhm.
what
I mean, this was obviously Apple inspired, but let
uh-huh.
me think. Um, cool projects. Yeah. I mean, I read a lot of this is kind of a cop out answer,
Mhm.
but I read a lot of like Adafruit tutorials when
Ooh,
I
yeah.
go about trying to figure out how to build things. Lately, the last one I read was about how to design the perfect laser cut enclosure.
Hmm. I think.
Like,
Oh, there we go. Your audio cut out for a second, but now it's back.
oh, sorry. Yeah.
My bad.
Oh, yeah, no, they tell you like small tricks around like, oh, you should standardize the screws that you're using, or like, oh, you gotta like add a little strain relief in this position. And yeah, I mean, okay, sure, it's not like the most elegant thing, but it's like so useful, so practical, and you know, their tutorials help tons and tons of different people. So I really have a soft spot for Adafruit. Um, yeah, what else? I forget his name, but there's this guy who does like um, circuit sculptures. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah,
Is
I
it
thought those
Mohit?
were, yeah, yeah. Oh man,
This
his
guy.
stuff is really beautiful. So
It's so gorgeous. I'm trying to
I've
pull it
like
up here.
tried to recreate some of his more basic designs for
Hmm.
fun, and it's always really fun. Like I'm a self-taught engineer. Like I would love to sort of like eventually become like a really seasoned electrical engineer. So like anytime I
Mm.
see like projects where like, oh, you can see sort of like how everything is coming together,
Is it
and a
this?
circuit, yeah, exactly, like a
Yeah.
circuit sculpture is kind of like the perfect version of that, where you see every little piece, but at the same time it's also organized in this really beautiful way, and
Mm.
it's just so good.
It's so good. I love these as well.
Mhm.
Ah, so good. Sorry, I get distracted by this.
No, you're good.
Cool. So, we're coming up on our time here. What have you got up next? What's next for you personally? Personal projects, work projects? Uh, Tell us whatever you can.
Yeah, personal project, kind of really random thing. I've been working on fitness a lot, so I just bought an Olympic bar in my
Ooh.
house, and I need to design a way to not completely smash through my floors when I use the Olympic bar. So I want to make like a foldable rubber mat. Like I can just like roll it out and like unfold it, and then start exercising on it. So that's the personal project I want to work on next. In terms of the company, I think right now we're just doing tons and tons and tons of software integrations with different new ends and devices. So really, like any help we can get there, like if anyone is a software engineer
Mm,
and likes to work with like IoT and sort of like like JavaScript, like we could use a lot of hands with building out these integrations. But yeah, I think right now we're just getting inundated with like, hey, like, do you support this? Hey, do you support that? We just need to
mm.
move a lot faster to support those things so that we can sell to these customers.
Oh, legit. So, if
Yeah.
you want to work on this kind of stuff and you wanna appear on that about page with all those cool people, I guess, get connected with Dawn. There's
Yep.
getseam.com. You can
Yep.
even request access as a developer, but all the docs are open. There's some really good documentation here as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can also just send an email to dawn@getseam.com as well. I should send you my email, but that's another way to get in touch with us if you want.
cool.
Yeah.
And you also have a LinkedIn that people can check out and people can follow what you're up to. Good
Mhm.
stuff. All right. Sweet. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining us, Don. What a
Yeah.
pleasure. We haven't seen each other in person really for a million years because of COVID and stuff, so it's nice to like get to catch up over
Totally.
video. Thank you everyone for joining.
Mhm.
Hope you have an awesome rest of your Tuesday and hack on.
Heck on. Thank you, Alex. This is really